You are now listening to the More Than an Admin podcast with Mallory Rothstein. For more, visit morethananadmin.com. And if you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to this podcast. Thank you and enjoy this episode. What's up, More Than an Admin community? Thank you so much for tuning into episode number 5 of the More Than an Admin podcast. I'm Mallory, your host, and today is a special episode because it's my first freestyle. It's also on a topic that I never thought I'd ever have to speak on, which is 12 things I learned after getting robbed in California, which was quite the experience for me. That happened just 2 weeks ago. I was originally going to drop this episode a few days after getting robbed, but I realized that it was way too close to home and I wasn't in the best headspace until, if I'm being super honest, just a few nights ago after I went to my church's album release worship night, which made me feel a heck of a lot better. Now I'm feeling back to myself and I'm finally ready to share what I've learned through it all. Some of the lessons I will be sharing are going to be light and silly, while others are going to be a little bit more deep and heavy. But I'm doing this episode because I really want to turn something that was painful into something more positive and of purpose, which is something I always try to do in my life, even when it's super difficult. And my only hope is that each of you listening takes away at least one gem that can help you in your life, especially if you're ever in the same situation as me, because I want you to handle it much better than I did. So let's get started. First, it's important to set some context about this California trip and why it was such an important week for me and just moment in general in my life. I initially went to California because one of my friends and fellow Google admins, shout out to Justine, asked me to go to a Warriors game with her. And if you know me, you know it's very hard for me to turn down an opening week Warriors game opportunity because I am a huge basketball fan, especially the Warriors. Shout out to the Warriors Nation. Especially if someone is willing to go full out bougie with me and also be okay with me fangirling in the only place that you will ever see me fangirl. I think because with my job, I cannot fangirl and I have to pretend like all these executives are just, normal people, that I let my fangirling come truly out at basketball games. Once I made the decision to go to California, I thought I should make the most of this trip since I'm not there all the time and I'm in Florida now by doing some sort of launch, which later led to me launching this podcast. And then I also decided to host a More Than an Admin week at Google with over 10 events, which was the first time we were ever doing a More Than an Admin week. And then also Ro Hoffer, shout out to Ro, convinced me that we should partner on an exclusive More Than an Admin dinner, which would be the first non-Google More Than an Admin event. Just a big, again, shout out to Ro, who is incredible. And without her, that dinner would have never happened because she was the one that really encouraged me to do that while visiting. So leading up to this week, I was honestly pulling so many close to all-nighters to make sure everything was launched on time, and I was hosting so many things, so I wanted to prep, and I wanted this week to be that people would see this More Than an Admin thing that I'm creating is much more than a hobby for me. It's not just I'm doing this, it's a legit thing, and I felt that having this More Than an Admin week, launching a podcast, and having a dinner would really solidify that with many people in my life who sometimes I think they just think it's a cute side hustle, but something I'm not maybe super serious about long term. But I was hoping that this would kind of change people's mind. And again, in order to land everything, I had to really put a lot of extra time. Like I even told my manager and some of the executives, you might see emails late from me, and that's not because you're making me work late. It's just I'm up late for More Than an Admin and I might, just respond to an email, but don't be alarmed. So I was barely sleeping for a while. I was not even really working out. I was not being super social, which I don't try to do. This is not something I'm even advising anyone to do, but I knew that there was, an end to this. There was an end date. It was that week that was going to go off amazing. And then I would be able to get back to normal. And I don't normally try to sacrifice too much of my life. But this is again, a huge opportunity for me to land this More Than an Admin movement and really prove myself to the admin community and everyone even outside of the admin community, especially beyond Google. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So it's Wednesday. I'm forgetting the exact date, but the Wednesday of the week that I was in California, and I'm supposed to actually be in San Bruno to see another admin in person. I'm supposed to be going out to dinner with a friend from college after this. That basically neither ended up happening because I was super tired and I had a team social in Mountain View. And then I ended up staying at my office in Mountain View until 7 p.m., which again, I didn't have in mind to do that. I was just so tired that instead of socializing with other people and having to drive to San Bruno or go out to a dinner, or I was also supposed to go for a walk with Justine, which didn't end up happening. I wanted to quickly run to the Apple store just to buy an iPad because I had all these in-person presentations, which I wanted an iPad to be able to read my notes better than, which would help me be a better presenter than just reading from a laptop. I think it's a cooler look, especially because I've seen so many pastors do this recently that I wanted to kind of get on their level. So, and I also never, ever, ever go to the Apple store on University Ave. I'm more of a Stanford shopping center kind of girl, but I thought maybe I'll switch things up. Maybe there will be stuff that is cool that's happening on University Ave. So I decided to go there. Now, if you really know me, you know, I am very crazy about my stuff because I don't have a lot of stuff that's valuable. I am someone that way more invests in experiences than things, but the stuff that I do have, I try to protect a lot, especially my backpack. I am known for wearing a backpack a lot. It has a lot of stuff in it. It's very heavy, and I never leave any of my backpacks, especially when they have all of my electronics in it, in any car, let alone a rental car. But again, I was so exhausted and I didn't want to carry anything on my back since my backpack is so heavy. So I thought, what could go wrong in 10, 15 minutes? Not thinking that a lot of things could go wrong in that time. So I leave everything in my car except my Google ID, my wallet, and my passport. And I'm very, very, very lucky that I couldn't find my license because it was in my backpack buried. So I just happened to take my passport, which again, I would normally not do. Shout out to, you know, having Google employees get an Apple discount, which is kind of ironic and funny in itself. Usually when you have advice at Apple, if you want the discount, you have to bring 2 forms of ID, or usually they always ask me. So that's even why I had, again, my passport on me and my Google ID. And of course, I leave my jacket over my backpack in the car thinking no one is going to notice that there's a backpack in here with 2 laptops in it and a ton of other electronics. I go get my iPad. I go to the CVS next door to get some eyeliner. Then all of a sudden I get a text from my coworker saying, "Hey, can I call you?" I'm casually walking back to my car. And then everything after this point is kind of a crazy blur. But what I remember is this guy coming up to me as soon as I'm about to open my car, which when someone comes up to me, it was like 7:50 p.m. It's a little bit dark. I'm thinking, who the heck is this guy? So I'm waving him off. Excuse me, I'm getting in my car. It's fine. And he's like, no, you got robbed. I'm thinking to myself, and again, this is all happening very quickly, even though I'm making it seem like it's a long moment. It's all like, you know, super fast. So I'm on the phone with my coworker. I look and I open the door and I see one piece of glass on the driver's seat. I'm like, what is this? And then it all hit me. Oh my gosh, this guy is telling me I got robbed. I looked up and I just saw all the glass shattered all over and I didn't see any of my stuff in the car. And I'm just going to say everything hit me at once and my mind went completely crazy. And I don't think I've ever freaked out in that moment like I've ever freaked out before. I think I could have won an Academy Award for that performance because it was just never-ending freaking out and bawling and posting on social media and calling a ton of people in my life. I had gotten physically robbed in San Francisco a couple years ago, and I lost 2 cell phones. But I think that even though I lost my phones and a ton of pictures on my work phone at the time, most of that was easily replaced because everything is in the cloud on there. So I actually didn't freak out as bad, especially because a close friend of mine was with me then. Then even I got served at work once for a wild lawsuit. And I didn't even freak out that bad because since I got served at work and people were there, I had to kind of keep it calm. But this time it was only me and this couple in this dark parking garage. And I don't know what happened to me. I let everything get the best of me and I freaked out. And I'll say that I was so sleep deprived, I think. And I put so much pressure on myself. I mean, this is a lesson in itself that for me, it wasn't even, and I still stand by this, it wasn't even the stuff that I lost. It was, wow, I had spent so much time and energy and sacrificed so much for this moment that potentially it can all be ruined since I still had 4 events that I had to get through. It was just really hard. I mean, I ended up losing most of my More Than an Admin content on both of my laptops. I had my personal work laptop stolen. I had all my flash drives, which I normally never travel with. I had all of my flash drives that hold all my middle and high school photos, videos, things that I was going to use for a documentary. And I just lost a ton of stuff. Even my work laptop, I had a lot of things saved on my actual work and personal laptop local desktop. I just never saved a lot of this stuff in the cloud, which was, again, stupid of me. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I lost my handwritten to-do lists. I lost headphones. I lost just a lot of stuff that when you look at it adds up to a lot of money. And it was, you just feel, again, I don't know if I felt super, super violated as much as other people thought I did. I just was so upset that there's been a lot of people in my life or just forces I feel in my life that anytime I'm about to launch something or do something great, there's something that comes up and tries to get me off my path. And I, in that moment, just felt so defeated and questioning, is More Than an Admin what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to be alive? You get into all these dark thoughts because you think, wow, I just put into so much, again, time, effort, energy, money, everything. And why is this not just working out so easily? But long story short, so that we can get into everything I learned, I ended up finding out that this Bryant parking garage in Palo Alto is known for break-ins because I looked at, finally, Google had a review, like Google reviews, and I would have never thought that people would write about a parking garage, but this one has pretty much all the reviews saying don't park here, and I even added my own review. And I'm probably never going to get my stuff back, which again is just something that you have to accept in life, that things are not going to go your way. And I just want to give quickly, and I'll give a shout out at the end to these people too, but I'm extremely grateful that it could have been a heck of a lot worse. And my friend Justine dropped absolutely everything when I called her to come help me figure out everything with the rental car. She drove with me to get a new rental. She even put a blanket over her head because I told her I don't want the glass to hit her in the back seat. And she was just such a huge support system when I was full on crying. She is the only person in my adult life besides exes of mine that have seen me cry. And I told her, don't tell anyone this. I'm a tough girl. I don't want anyone to think I'm just a cry all the time. I just really appreciate her. I also want to give a big shout out to the Google tech support guy that I was speaking to, Justin, who should give a lesson on how to be empathetic and handle a really high level stress phone call. He consoled me like the perfect way. He told me it was okay to cry on the phone with him. He was seriously the nicest ever person to work with over the phone when I had to call him and tell him everything that happened. And I just want to give a shout out to the couple who also got robbed, who I feel way worse for given all the stuff that they lost, and they weren't even from this country, and stayed with me until Justine came. I want to give a big shout out to my coworker, Nancy, who is an admin on my team, who was on the phone with me when I found out everything. So she definitely heard the moments of freak out that I was exuding. And then all the others that I called up while I was dealing with this craziness. And there are so many more thank yous that I'll also get to at the end. Now it's time to get into the 12 things that I learned while getting robbed in California. Of course, there are tons of more lessons that I learn every single day, but these are just the 12 that I'm sharing right now. So the first one is, if you're going to have a handwritten to-do list, do not leave them anywhere without taking a photo of it first. Now, I'm pretty old school. I always like to write my to-do lists because I get such satisfaction on crossing something out that typing or backspacing doesn't do it for me. But leaving that to-do list in my backpack without a copy of it was very dumb. Not that you ever plan on getting, of course, robbed. And I just still to this day now, have this paranoia that I forgot to do a ton of stuff on there, because quite honestly, I cannot remember everything that was on there. And so if anyone's listening to this and thinks that I promised them something that I haven't done yet, it's probably forgotten by me, because I don't have the to-do list and I write everything on there. So just reach out to me and remind me that I promised to do something. Just really learned that, and this is for anyone out there that is old school like me, just know the risks that when you write things down, you can have them stolen. Even I have a handwritten journal that, the funny thing is, usually is in my backpack, but this was the first trip I didn't travel with it. So I'm very lucky that I didn't lose that. But just remember that if you're going to leave something somewhere, maybe take a picture of it just in case to have it in your phone. So that is number one. Number two is I learned that I'm a total team MacBook over team Chromebook. And while I love most Google products, and I'm not just saying it, I really do love most Google products, I had to use a Chromebook for my loaner work laptop. And I'll just say that my productivity was not as high. I felt like I was an old person or a super young person learning technology for the first time. And I guess I'm just so used to a MacBook that it was incredibly hard for me to adjust to a Chromebook. And I just was very off my game. So I learned that I am total team MacBook. You know, that's okay if you're not the same, but that's what I learned about myself. Number three is I learned that the crime and theft rate in California is nuts. And even more bizarre that I learned was how unfazed the police are when someone calls them about a break-in. When I spoke to the police and even Google security, it was as if they had heard this 1,000 times before, and they honestly probably have. It was scary how calm and, oh yeah, this happens all the time. Even the car rental guy, when I was returning my rental, said to me, oh, you're the fifth one today. We have usually 10 a day. 10 a day? What? Of break-ins of cars? That's totally nuts. And when I was telling other admins about this, so many of them said to me, oh yeah, this happened to me before. Or, oh, in San Francisco, we say if you have something stolen from you, that's kind of your baptism. You're getting baptized in the Bay Area. That is just so nuts. I had one of my executives send to me about Prop 47 and the effects of it, which if you don't know what Prop 47 is, I don't want to explain it because I'm probably going to botch it, but just look what Prop 47 is. But essentially it's having this negative effect where because they lowered the consequence for crimes when you steal, a lot of people are getting away with stealing a lot more because it's not as harsh on your record. So I was just blown away by this. I did not like learning this. I knew theft and crime was getting big in California, but I think right now it's at an all-time high. Just a reminder that if you are going to get a rental car in the Bay Area, please do not leave anything in your car. I had to learn this the hard way. If you learn anything from me today, it's do not leave your stuff in a rental car unless you are, in a parking garage that is at someone's house, like not just like a parking garage in San Francisco randomly. Please, please, please keep your stuff safe. So now on to number 4. This is very important too. You must prepare yourself for what you should do if you get robbed, but even more so, what you should say or do if someone in your life was robbed and they call you. And I'll tell you why. Because no matter how much you prepare for getting robbed, getting shot at, having the police pull you over, I'd say a good portion of the time you're going to go into shock, or you're going to be so scared that you're sometimes not going to even think what the right thing to do is. Because I can tell you, if you had asked me a week before I got robbed, well, what would you do if you got robbed? I would probably say something completely different than how I actually acted, which was a complete nutcase. I would say prepare yourself for what you would say to someone if they called you and were in a panic like I was, and not just being nice to this person, not just consoling them, but stuff on what they can do in the moment to make sure that they can maybe get their stuff recovered. How do you call insurance? All of that. And so for me, some of the things that I would advise if someone was calling me that I think is important for other people to do is you want to call the police and file a police report, keeping in mind that when you first file the police report, either do a very detailed one, But if your mind is all over the place, file something basic and then update it as soon as possible. That's actually what happened with me. Was in the moment I filed something, but it was extremely vague. It was like 2 MacBooks, chargers, black backpack. All right, I don't even actually think I put black backpack. I just put backpack. But then a couple days later, I realized, oh, I need to make this way more detailed, put in all the values of stuff. And so that's really important. You also want to check around the car or in the car to see if the robbers dropped anything. That's super important. Maybe they dropped their own license, or they dropped something of yours that could be, that the police could use. The other thing you want to do is call your insurance and see what you can claim, whether it's renter's insurance or car insurance, maybe AAA. I don't know. There's probably a bunch of insurances that whatever you have, they might be able to give you some money back or replace something, especially if your car is broken and it's your actual car and not a rental car. You want to call up your banks and anywhere else that you think someone can get into and cancel that account. I had to cancel a few credit cards. And the other thing that you want to think about is, can you actually drive the rental car or your car anywhere? Or do you need to call AAA or have someone pick you up? I decided to drive the rental car back to Avis only because I didn't think that anything in the car was actually broken. I just thought that the car was broken into. So I decided to do that. But if I thought that it would further damage the car or something, or if it was potentially my own car, I might not have driven it. But you want to make sure that you, again, advise yourself or advise someone else if they're calling you on all of this stuff. But those are probably the top most important things. I'd say, obviously, there's other things like, stay calm, make sure that you're safe, stuff like that. But those are things I think people would automatically think, but these are things that maybe others wouldn't think. And this is really important, again, not just for really getting robbed, but it made me think about what are all different scenarios that could happen in my life that would make me very panicked? And how can I have a thing on my phone that is, okay, if you get robbed, here are things to do. And it sounds so silly, but it's just like I tell people you should have kind of a trigger plan that if someone triggers you in whatever way, you need to have kind of a self-care plan ready and just have a list on your phone of things that would help you feel better after you get triggered by something. I think it's the same that I'm starting to do is, okay, if you get robbed, if you get physically assaulted, things like that, because sometimes people are not going to answer. Like I was very lucky that it was only 7:50 when this all happened, Pacific time, but there were a lot of people on the East Coast that were already sleeping because it was late. So that was number 4. Now on number 5 is don't delay on saving everything in multiple places, especially if you have a side hustle or any kind of business. Invest in external hard drives, flash drives, the cloud somewhere. Make sure your shit is saved in multiple places. This was definitely my biggest mistake. And quite honestly, it was just out of pure laziness and thinking that I would have time to do this. Again, you never plan that you're going to get robbed. So I'm very upset with myself because I lost a ton of stuff. I mean, I even lost on my work laptop. I had taken screenshots of all these nice messages over the years that people have sent me that on a bad day I like to look at, or if I need it for a performance review. And I lost a lot of them. I mean, this is something small, obviously, but for me, it's something that really does help me. And I'm just really upset with myself. I lost all my interviews that I've done before. And so please save your stuff. It is worth thinking about proactively instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. It sounds really easy, but life gets busy and sometimes we forget to do these things because we think, again, we have all the time in the world and a lot of times we don't. So that's kind of a short and simple one, is just save your shit in multiple places. Don't be lazy like me. Number 6, don't let the lack of sleep allow you to put your guard down, and really just invest in your sleep. This is something that is very hard for me to do because my mind races a lot, especially at night, and I'm very busy and I enjoy coming up with a lot of ideas, and the nighttime is just a great time for me to do that since everyone else in my life is sleeping. When you don't have good sleep and you are tired all the time, it can affect every other area of your life. I can't stress enough that the reason why this robbery happened is not just because those robbers were bad and, mean people. It's because I was so tired that I didn't have enough energy to drive to either San Bruno, to have dinner with a friend, to go on a walk with Justine. I just wanted to kind of go to the Apple store and get an iPad and go home and work again or sleep or whatnot. But had I been awake and I wouldn't have been tired, I would have held on to my backpack. A lot of times we're tired and we make mistakes, or we get irritable, or we then have to sleep in, or we miss opportunities because, again, we don't have enough energy. And this was something that I really, really learned, that I need to conquer this in my life. Being super vulnerable, the biggest battle that I have in my life and have had for a long time has always been my sleep cycle and my inability to fall asleep at a normal hour. I mean, these days, if I go to bed before 4:30, it's a good night for me. That's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not exaggerating. 4:30 or earlier is a good night for me because of just how much that I just do things at night. I just get so much stuff done at night that it's very hard for me. But then again, in the mornings are hard for me to get up. I tend to cancel meetings because I'm so tired and need like a nap during the day. If there's anything I could say, it's really about making sure you get enough sleep. And I don't necessarily think getting 8 hours a day every single day is realistic for some people, and that's fine. But please don't get to a point where you are having health issues or making people upset because you don't have enough sleep and you're being irritable, you're missing appointments, you're not showing up as your best self. It's really, 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 really important to invest in your sleep. And I'm doing for the end of the year as many things as I can to really put myself in a good position to sleep early or earlier. Now to number 7, which is you cannot attach yourself deeply to anything but God, memories, and I'll just say taxes, because they definitely don't ever go away. And in my head, I'm imagining all of you laughing, since podcasting solo is very awkward when you're trying to be funny and not sure if the joke landed. But anyway, this lesson is so important too. I will never forget super young listening to someone speak somewhere about how you must always, not maybe always, but you must imagine your entire house being burned down and losing all of your possessions. Because once you imagine that, it should help start the process of detaching yourself from all the things that you own. And this was very important to me to learn at a young age, because this is why I don't really buy a lot of stuff. I will invest in experiences. I will invest in other stuff for other people. I will invest in food or anything health related. But besides that, you'll never see me with fancy jewelry, with fancy clothes, with really any fancy gadgets unless I really need them. The lesson of just detaching yourself is really important. I know that for me, I still struggle with the attachment to people and losing things of sentimental value. Obviously, that's why I was so distraught over some of the stuff I lost because of its sentimental value. But it's really important to remember that after this lifetime, regardless of what you believe the afterlife is, you cannot bring any of your stuff with you or the money that you have. Really, the only thing that you can bring is, your spirit. So you really need to focus on whatever higher power you believe in and your memories. But even now I'm thinking about it, like, your memories can go away too, in a way, if you get Alzheimer's or dementia, but we won't think about that. We'll just think about, again, just focus on not attaching yourself so much to these things that we hold on to. In the last week, I've had to really remind myself every single day that even though I miss my flash drives and I miss my laptops that have tons of stuff on it, I miss even my expensive perfume that was in that bag, I miss my backpack. Those things are not as important as my life. Again, I'm very lucky that I was not in the car when it was getting broken into, because I would be the person that would try to fight the robbers to try to keep my backpack. And who knows, I could have gotten potentially really injured. So again, you have to remember, when you're grateful for your body, yourself, hopefully that reminder will help you get through. And it will also, when you lose things in the future, because look, I've not only gotten things robbed from me, I've also forgotten important things, places. Like, I remember I left important jewelry to me in a hotel room, and I had already left and they didn't have it. So those are just a good reminder and lesson to know, to not get attached to so many things. So number 8, which is for all my friends, admin friends out there, save your execs' numbers and probably some of your admin coworkers easily in your phones. I think because I've had so many managers and new executives to support over the years, I forgot to do this and only had one executive of mine in my phone when I got robbed, who luckily answered the phone super late. I know this is such a rookie mistake on my end, but I think again, I wasn't thinking I've had my laptop stolen. And this is just a good reminder and something that I learned to make sure that on your personal laptop, your phone, to have work emergency numbers just in case you ever need them, whether again it's an executive or at least one other admin on your team or someone in your life that can get in contact with your manager or the people that you work with. Because I did not have any access to my executives' calendars. I couldn't make a last minute edit. And to be quite honest, I had a lot of things in my inbox that I needed to get to with no access to it. So it made me just remember even more important to have, again, people's numbers saved. I was very lucky. Shout out to Sarab. He answered for me and I probably scared the shit out of him, but he was very great on the phone with me and did not even care anything about his calendar, which is awesome. And he responded very perfectly. But for me, I was just a little bit flustered because obviously when you're an admin, you're thinking so much about the people that you support and you don't want things that are happening in your life to affect theirs and their productivity and their day to day. Which leads me to number 9, which is it's so important as an admin to document everything that you do in your job so someone can easily cover and your execs know exactly what you're responsible for in case of an emergency, like potentially getting robbed. And again, this is something that I've been very good at in the past. I feel as though, again, in recent months, I've been a little bit sloppy with this. And so I'm investing a lot of time this week in updating all of my documents. I have not only a document for everything that I do, but also I have a personal info emergency document where basically it has my blood type, it has my landlord, it has my parents, it has my siblings, it has multiple of my closest admin friends and their numbers, it has one of my best friends that's external to Google. And it has I'm trying to think of any other information besides my blood type. I guess it says like I don't have any allergies, things like that to medication, because you just never know. And to be honest, as much as we want to believe, especially at a big company, HR or people ops might not be available or might be very slow, or there might be things that they're not technically allowed to tell your manager or your admin team that you might not care about and that they might need to know. Again, whether you're getting robbed or you're getting into a physical altercation or you get ill or you get hit by a car, right? All these things we think are never going to happen, but they can. And so I really advise every admin to put together a doc with all of your day-to-day responsibilities and things that are ongoing so that someone can look at it and say, oh, okay, Mallory is usually the one in charge of our all hands. Well, we need to make sure that if she's going to be out suddenly, that the all hands can still go on. Or, okay, Mallory is in charge of more than an admin. Who are the other people on her more than an admin team that we can let her know that she might not be available? So you want to just have a list, all the people that you support. I'm very big with giving access to all of my documents, again, to my executives and to at least one other admin on my team that I can really trust so that if anything were to happen, again, it would be very easily accessible. So now for number 10, you really get to see how committed you are to something when you go through adversity. I've always known since college that I wanted to start something that mattered in the world. Hence why I have Start Something That Matters tattooed on my ribcage. Kudos to Blake Mycofsky's book, Start Something Matters. Start Something That Matters for the inspiration. But I knew that even though I wanted to start something, I didn't know what I would start for a long time because I knew that if I started something, I wanted it to be something I could do for a long term, but also something that I felt super passionate about, that if I went through adversity, it wouldn't discourage me from continuing it. After I got robbed, initially, again, I was in freak out mode and I'm thinking, is this really something I should be doing, investing my time in more than an admin? I just lost so much of my stuff. I have to kind of rebuild. But after calming down, I really realized that more than an admin was legit what I believe is God's purpose for me. And I had to get back up and I had to still pursue this vision of mine. There's always going to be adversity in your life. There's going to be plenty of it, especially if you're going to, again, try to do something that no one is doing. You have a powerful message. You have a powerful voice. But you have to know that just because there is adversity, you should not let it always shake you, because if you're going to continue to get shaken, you're just going to keep on being on this up and down roller coaster. You have to really control your mind. You have to realize that that's just part of life. And you really get to see through adversity how committed you are to whatever you're doing. It doesn't even have to be a job. It can be a relationship. It can be whatever you're pursuing in your life. And I'm sure that even in my own life, there's going to be plenty of more adversity. I mean, there's probably going to be at least one bad review of this podcast. There's going to be bad reviews of my future book that comes out. And just, you have to remember that adversity is a constant. So you must really prepare yourself mentally for the roller coaster ride to the finish line. And if you're really in doing your purpose, it's worth it. At least to me, it is. Which leads me to number 11. You get to determine what and who breaks you or doesn't break you. I ended up keeping a piece of broken glass from my car rental, which I thought was pretty cool looking, even though I did not like broken glass everywhere. But I wanted this to be a reminder to myself that you get to determine what breaks you. I get to determine if this glass breaks me mentally or not. And that also, you also get to decide if something in your life stays ugly forever or that you can turn it into something beautiful one day. Things that are ugly or hurtful or negative always has potential. Even the worst things that have happened to me, and look, I've been through a lot of adversity in my life, really vile things that have happened to me. But what I have always realized is that you get to decide what happens from there. And you can either stay in this really self-loathing, negative space, or you can turn it into something, again, positive and beautiful. And it doesn't have to be for yourself. I always say that for the things that happen to me in my life that are negative, it's not always that I'm getting fulfillment out of it, but it's a lot of times for me making sure that I take the lessons and I make sure it doesn't happen to other people in my life. And that's where the positivity, the of purpose comes from, that you can turn something super negative into something better, especially for other people, especially for the younger generation that are willing to listen to you and the lessons that you can learn. So you get to determine what and who breaks you or what doesn't break you. Things can break you in a moment, but you get to decide if that moment is going to turn into a lifetime. And I really hope that I know that there's someone listening right now that is letting one thing really break them forever, or is continuing to let them break them down. But I'm here to say, don't let that person or that thing win, that you are allowing them. When you realize that you can allow someone to do something, it takes your power back. I think that that's a really big reminder too, is you have so much power in your reactions. You have so much power over your mind. Don't just think that you are something now forever in a negative light. You can always, again, with time, again, it's not like you could just flip on a switch, but with time, with practice, with self-affirmations, with therapy, with changing, diet, health, exercise plan, all this kind of stuff, you can really, again, be in a better space. So just remember, don't let people or things determine your future and what breaks you forever. Which leads me to the last lesson I learned, which is someone or something can rob you of your stuff, but no one can rob you of your moment or opportunity unless you let them. Because often, more times than not, the show is always going to go on, and you have to decide if you're going to keep on going with the show or if the show is going to have to go on without you. Now, of course, I say this knowing it's totally okay to take breaks or cancel something after a traumatic experience like getting robbed. But you get to decide, again, if you're going to forever stay down and forever get robbed of your life. And for me, it was extremely difficult to do, but I ended up still hosting 3 of the events the day after the robbery. And I even went to the Warriors game, which was the Friday after I got robbed. And I don't think that anyone would have been upset with me or disappointed if I decided to cancel or go and just not talk, but just kind of like be there. But I didn't want these robbers to take away what I worked so hard for. Even the Warriors game, like it was a lot of money to go to this Warriors game. And I was like, I am not going to let these robbers take my experience away from me there and then lose money in the process, because I'm also very driven by money in terms of losing it. And even though I probably could have done a much better job at hosting my events because I think I was a little bit distracted, I showed up in the best way that I could. And that's all sometimes you can do, and just pray that the people are going to give you some grace, which I'm grateful for all the people who decided to give me that grace at Google and outside of Google. And I actually loved all the events I co-hosted, plus obviously the Warriors game was incredible because I was so proud of myself that this was one of the only times in my entire life, to be honest, that I really did not let something affect me. Not only did I not let it affect me, but I didn't start the talk or the event by saying, okay, everyone, I just got robbed and I'm in a bad mood, because that's something I would normally do. And I knew that I had to have a growth opportunity to not make this all about me. Now, yes, I did say it at the end of one presentation and kind of in the middle of another one, but I didn't want to let those robbers take away, again, what I worked so hard for. But I also wanted people to know that you don't know always what's happening in someone's life, especially when you have to host or co-host something. For a lot of people who are listening, some of you are all-stars at presenting and totally know what I'm talking about. And some of you have never really presented or had to present at a high stressful event or an event where you are truly the face of it. A lot of times there are so many things going on in our life that when you show up as a speaker, you have to really honestly blank out everything else that's going on in your life. That's why I have an extreme respect for anyone that does like a co-hosting event every single day on the TV. Or, I have a friend that is a meteorologist and he has to be on the TV, I think 5 days out of the week. And again, it's your job. You have to just get up and do it. And I take public speaking very seriously, whether it's a podcast or speaking at Google or speaking at a high school, wherever, that when I show up, I have to try to block everything out and give it my best effort. So for me, again, you can learn. No one can rob you of your moment or your opportunity. Only you can allow them to do that. And I hope that if you're ever faced with adversity, because again, we all are, you take the time you need. So again, if you need to take a day or if you need to cancel something, that's okay. But I hope that you don't let that time drag on too long, because the way to not let robbers or whoever evil win is to get back up and you keep winning yourself despite everything you're going through because of them. These are people or forces in the world that want you to be down. They want you to be discouraged. And don't let them win. Make sure you're winning, because at the end of the day, that's what's super important. And I think a lot of times there are two types of people. There are people that either they get up and keep going every single time and don't allow themselves any time to heal or reflect. And then there's people who all they want to do is self-loathe and have self-pity and never get back up. And I think that there needs to be a balance. And for me, it was during this situation, I got right back up and tried my best to push through everything. And then when I got back to Florida, I really allowed myself, okay, what just happened? I'm going to have to cancel some meetings on my calendar. I'm not going to be able to get back to people as much, because I had to really accept and think about all the things that I learned. All the things that I lost, and then all the things that I learned after that, and get myself in a good headspace again. So that is all the 12 lessons that I learned after getting robbed in California. Let me recap them and remind you of them. Number 1, if you're going to have handwritten to-do lists, don't leave them anywhere without first taking a photo of it. Number 2, I learned that I'm total team MacBook over Chromebook, even though I love Google products and please purchase them so our stock goes up. Number 3, the crime and theft rate in California is crazy, and that the police are completely unfazed by robbery or theft. Number 4, prepare yourself for what you should do if you get robbed, but even more importantly, what you should say or do if someone in your life calls you after they're being robbed. Number 5, don't delay, especially if you have any kind of business or side hustle that you want to monetize. Save everything in multiple places. Number 6, don't let the lack of sleep allow you to put your guard down. Sleep should be number 1. Number 7, you cannot attach yourself deeply to anything but God, memories, and taxes, of course. Number 8, especially for all my admin friends, save your execs numbers easily in all your cell phones and laptops and all the places, and also at least one of the other admins on your team. Number 9, it's very important, again, as an admin, that you document your work so someone can easily cover you and your execs know exactly what you're responsible for in case of an emergency. Number 10, you really get to see how committed you are to something when you go through adversity. Number 11, you get to determine what and who breaks you or doesn't break you. And number 12, someone can rob you or something can rob you of your stuff, but no one can rob you of your moment or opportunity unless you let them, because the show must always go on. And I personally hope that you always choose to get back up and don't let anyone rob you of something important to you. So that's it. I hope you learned a new gem or two, or just at least had a good reminder for you to use in your own lives. I want to give one more big shout out and say thank you to Justine, Nancy, Dawn, Mackenzie, Sarab, Jen, Sarah, my dad who answered the phone when I needed him, my More Than an Admin core team and community at Google, specifically an admin named Rebecca, who I don't even really personally know, who found me 2 brand new backpacks that she gave me because I had lost my backpack and I really didn't want to have to buy a new one because I had to replace so many things, and I was honestly becoming very expensive for me that I did not expect to have to buy so much stuff. So she gave me 2 backpacks, which is really nice of her. I also want to say thank you to Ro and Mo. Mo is an EA at the JCC in Palo Alto, which is an incredible venue if anyone's looking for an event space in the Bay Area, for helping me co-host the dinner when I was in the Bay Area. And all the admins that went to the first More Than an Admin dinner, I really appreciate them for, again, giving me the grace. And just everyone else who supported me through this. Like I said, I posted a lot on social media. I probably scared the crap out of a lot of people, and I just appreciate everyone's messages and just wanting to support. I really, really, really appreciate that. Then I have 2 more special shout outs. One is to my friend Isabel, who invited me to her church in SF called the Father's House on the Sunday after everything went down. She actually invited me before everything went down, but it's, funny again how the universe works, that it happened to be the Sunday after I got robbed. And I don't say this lightly. Her and Pastor Tim from the Father's House really saved me and my life and the whole More Than an Admin movement when I went to church. Because while I'm in a very good space now, I was the opposite of where I am now on the Saturday night before church, having a total meltdown when I bought new headphones at Walmart, since I had lost my nice expensive ones in the robbery. And I was in this mindset where I was so angry and upset and just distraught of, one, I had to shell out a lot of money that I did not have. And second, I think I mentioned this before, I tried to launch a lot of things in the past, and I felt like every time I tried to launch something bad happened, or I had an unexpected financial cost, or, all my family had their weddings, and so I had to postpone all my dreams and plans until now this year, at the end of this year. And I really didn't understand if the messaging from the universe, from God, was that I should keep pursuing More Than an Admin and honestly my life, or give up. But really going to church and listening, especially to Tim's message, it really just confirms that I'm on the right path. And if I truly believe, again, this is God's purpose for me, then there's going to be adversity. There's going to be things that happen bad, and you have to just keep going. And that, unfortunately, when you're on a lot of times the right path, the devil, evilness, bad people in this world are just going to keep trying to stop you. But at least for me and More Than an Admin, I can promise everyone that nothing and no one is going to stop me unless I'm the one who wants to go into a different direction, not because I'm influenced by someone else. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Isabel, to Pastor Tim, to the Father's House, who all just welcomed me with wonderful arms. And there's something about live worship music, and then also, again, Pastor Tim's message that really just spoke to me in that moment on that Sunday, which leads me to give one more shout out, which is to my own church, Radiant, which is there is a branch in St. Pete, but I tend to go to the one in South Tampa and the Heights location in Tampa, as well as my church's Radiant Collective, which is their worship group, who just dropped a new album called Stay during the last couple of weeks too. And right after I got robbed, Justine and I were driving back to Avis. I asked her, I was like, Justine, is it okay if I put on worship music in the car? And of course, she's like, yeah, sure, whatever you want. And I played songs from that album, Stay, by Radiant Collective. That album for me, I don't know, I never thought, honestly, my church would come out with an album this good, but it has been on repeat most days since. And then just a couple nights ago, my church had its album release worship night, and I cannot even tell you how much that uplifted me. Again, there's something about worship music. I've talked about this a lot on social media. Worship music has incredibly saved my life. I used to listen to so much mainstream music, to rap, hip hop, and it only made me more upset compared to when I listen to worship music. There's something that uplifts my spirit, and I really, really needed it this last week. Like I said, I was doing very up and down roller coaster mental gymnastics, and when I went to that worship night, night, I just felt, again, I know that people will be like, oh, Mallory is going into such a rah-rah land, but like, if you believe, and again, the Holy Spirit, if you believe in God, I just had such like a moment there where, again, it was like, you're okay, Mal, you will rebuild. Yes, you got robbed, but again, don't let this rob you of your opportunity forever. And I felt such a peace since that worship night. And I was having really bad nightmares of being physically robbed very crazily by people in my past. And I was like, what is going on? But I haven't had a nightmare since. So that's a good thing. I just want to say, whether you are a Christian or not, I don't care. Go listen to the song off the album called Dwell. It is that song on the album. It's my favorite song right now. Nix Lopez, who is the main singer on the song, is amazing and even better live. I was blown away when I heard her sing live a couple days ago. And right now, her voice and then Naomi Rain from Maverick City Music are definitely my favorite voices right now. The song Dwell is just so special to me that I will be using the lyrics and incorporating them in my upcoming book. So it's that powerful for me. And I just feel so blessed to have Radiant Church and Radiant Collective in my life, because quite honestly, again, like when people ask me how I get up from adversity, I am not someone who is motivated all the time and inspired all the time. How I stay that way is what I feed my soul, what content I consume. And I'm very intentional about what I listen to, what I watch. And just for me, worship music is something that always fills my soul. Every time I listen to it, I feel in such a good place. It's the only music that honestly gets me super emotional. So again, go listen to Dwell. Go listen to the entire Stay album wherever you listen to music. Support Radiant Collective. And it's not like I'm trying to sell anything or that I have like a special bond with someone, but I think their stuff is amazing. Something I've had to learn recently is it's okay to ask for help. And I'm terrible at doing this because I don't like to ask people for anything, because then people think that then I have to owe them back, or I don't know. People are weird when you ask for help. I'm not really someone that likes to ask for a lot of it, but people have asked me. They say that they want to support me. So here are 3 ways where you can support me. 1, you can subscribe to the More Than an Admin YouTube channel and help me get to 1,000 subscribers and 400 watch hours, so I can finally start monetizing my channel. I really want to do that. I really want to have passive income. The second thing is subscribe to the podcast, the More Than an Admin podcast, on Spotify or Apple. Or again, just subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a rating or review or comment. I don't even care if it's negative. If you want to leave a negative thing, I don't care. I just, I don't ask people to just give me good reviews ever. I truly want a legit review, but the engagement is what's most important to me. And it just helps. It obviously helps the algorithm. And obviously I want my podcast to do well and want the right people to listen to it. So that would be amazing if you could subscribe and write some kind of, or just rate it. I tend to not ask people for anything monetarily. I tend to just ask people things that are pretty quick and easy. I really, really, really appreciate it. And then the last thing, if you know anyone looking for speakers, please DM me on any platform or reach out to me at team@morethananadmin.com. I'm looking for more speaking opportunities that have an audience as administrative professionals, or anything motivational for a broader audience. I have tons of keynotes that I've done now, or like coming up with, or panel ideas, especially for high school students. I have an amazing bullying to breakthrough presentation that I've given before. And I just really want to get into more speaking, especially after my book is out next year, and just hopefully get my messages out to more people and just, again, spark some inspiration and motivation into people, and believe that no matter what adversity that you go through, there can always be light after the tunnel. If you choose to see it, if you can't see the light, create the light. Just like if you can't see inspiration, be inspiration. That was one of the things that one of my late amazing mentors, Roberta Richin, told me in a class one time was, if you can't find inspiration, be inspiration for others. And so those are the best ways to support me. Unless you want to give me $1 million, or you want to buy me a house or find me a husband, I will gladly take all of those too, if you're willing to provide them, especially the husband part. I am single, everyone. So anyway, I'll stop there before I get on my ranting about, again, needing $1 million or buying a house. I hope you all are laughing at my awkwardness and jokes as I close this podcast out. Thank you again so much for tuning in to episode number 5, the 12 things I learned after getting robbed in California. Peace out for now, and I will talk to you all soon again. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the More Than an Admin podcast. Make sure you have subscribed, and if you're feeling a little generous, please also leave a review because we love your feedback. And remember to share this podcast with those around you. If you're looking for more content, check out morethananadmin.com, our YouTube channel, or follow us at morethananadmin on all platforms. If you're looking to connect directly with me, you can find me at Mallory is More on all platforms or search for me on LinkedIn. Let's continue together to influence how the world views administrative professionals and help admins embrace all aspects of their identity to become their best selves. Remember, you are more than your job title, and the best is still yet to come. I'll talk with you soon.